Hello and welcome back to the Tech Blackboard. Today in part 13, I have got 15 very latest and important questions for you for our AZ-104 real exam question and answer series. A giveaway PDF is waiting for you with all the questions and the answers. In case you have missed or you're new to this channel, I would like to mention that we have already covered 145 questions in 12 parts. All the questions are very latest and important from the exam point of view. You don't want to miss any of these questions. Each answer is well explained and well supported by Microsoft documentation. The link for this entire playlist is now flashing in the I button on the top right corner and is also available in the description box. And if you are fond of learning in offline mode, I offer free PDF version of each of these parts. For that, you have to answer few simple questions that are asked in each respective video. And what could be better? The answer for each question you will find in those videos itself. And as always, if you are looking for the PDF version of part 13, then you have to tell me the correct answers for question number 148, question number 153 and question number 160. All these questions and answers are discussed in this video itself. If you are liking my work, please do not forget to give me a thumbs up. If you are new here, subscribe to the channel and share the videos. Besides YouTube, you can also connect me on the other social media platform, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. The links for all of them are flashing on your screen. So let's begin our part 13 with question number 146. The question says that you have an Azure virtual machine named VM1. VM1 was deployed by using a custom Azure Resource Manager template named arm1.json. Now you receive a notification that VM1 will be affected by maintenance. You need to move VM1 to a different host immediately. The solution given here is from the redeploy blade, you click redeploy. Does this meet the goal? Before jumping to the answer, let's see one more variation of the same question presented in question number 147. And the question is entirely the same. However, the solution given here is that from the update management blade, you click enable. Does this meet the goal? Now friends, if you have been following this series, then you might remember that in part 11 also, in question number 116, we discussed the redeployment of virtual machine. I would once again like to reiterate the concept of what exactly happens when you redeploy a virtual machine. So when you redeploy the virtual machine, Azure moves the virtual machine to a new node within the Azure infrastructure, and then it powers on the virtual machine once again. And in this process, it retains all your configuration options and associated resources. If you are looking for more details on configuration options and associated resources, then check out question number 116 of part 11. Now let's jump to the Azure portal and find out the correct answer. So here I am on the Azure portal that talks about redeployment Windows virtual machine to a new Azure node. There are many ways of redeployment of Azure virtual machines. For example, you can use Azure CLI. You can also use Azure PowerShell. However, our question talks more about Azure portal. So this is the section more relevant for us. Now here you can see that Microsoft says that select the virtual machine you wish to redeploy and then select the redeploy button in the settings blade. You may need to scroll down to see support and troubleshooting section that contains redeploy button as shown in the following example. So here you can see you have to select the virtual machine. For example, here it says test virtual machine and you can see the redeployment option here. And then as a step 2, it says that to confirm the operation, select redeploy button. So once you select the redeploy button, the virtual machine gets redeployed. You can see here, they have shown in this screenshot that the status of the virtual machine is now updating, which means that the redeployment process has started and then it says starting. So the virtual machine is now redeployed and it's getting started. And then as a last step, now you can see the status of the virtual machine is now running. So of course, the virtual machine is now available to you. From the Microsoft documentation, now it's very easy to answer both of these questions. So the answer for question number 146 is yes. Of course, you can redeploy the virtual machine from redeploy blade and then you select redeploy as we just saw in the Microsoft documentation. And then the answer for question number 147 is no. Now let's take two more questions on Azure Virtual Machine. The question number 148 says that you have an Azure subscription that contains resources shown in the following table. Now here you can see in this table, we have two resource groups. The location can be observed here. Then we have two storage account. The location is here. Then we have one virtual machine with the location, and then we have two virtual network with the location specified here. Then the question says that the VM1 connects to VNet1 and you need to connect VM1 to VNet2. The solution given here is that you move VM1 to RG2 and then you add a new network interface to VM1. Does this meet the goal? And the correct answer for this question is no. I will give the detailed explanation in the question number 149. So let's move ahead. So this is the question number 149. The question is exactly the same. However, this time the solution is that you delete virtual machine 1 and then you recreate virtual machine 1 and then you create a new network interface for virtual machine 1 and connect it to the virtual network 2. Does this meet the goal? And the correct answer for this question is yes, this meets the goal. Now let me tell you why. To migrate a virtual machine from one virtual network to another virtual network, the only option is to delete the virtual machine and then redeploy the virtual machine using a new NIC. NIC means the network interface card. And then you connect this newly created network interface card or NIC to a new virtual network. In this case, virtual network 2. And that's why yes is the correct answer for this question. Now let me give you a very quick tip. When you create an Azure virtual machine, you must create a virtual network or use an existing virtual network. You can change the subnet of a virtual machine that the virtual machine is connected to after it's created. However, you cannot change the virtual network. Besides that, you can also change the size of the virtual machine. So keep these tips in mind whenever you are working with Azure virtual machine or you have to solve a business scenario like this one. Now let's jump to the question number 150. This question is rather interesting but also a little confusing one. So I want full attention from you in this question. So let's read the question. The question says that you have an Azure subscription named subscription 1 containing the following quotas. You can see that we have the quota. We have standard BS family vCPU. We also have a D family vCPU. Here you can observe the location and here are the usages given. Moving on, the question says that you deploy virtual machines to subscription 1 as shown in the following table. You can see here we have virtual machines named VM1 and VM20 and the size of the virtual machine is given along with the vCPUs and the location is also given and the status of virtual machine is also given. Please note that first virtual machine VM1 is in running state and the second virtual machine VM20 is stopped or deallocated state. This is very important to note, so keep this point in mind. Then to the next section of the question, it says that you deploy the virtual machines shown in the following table. So we have VM3, we have VM4, and then we have VM5. You can see all the different sizes of all these virtual machines respectively along with the vCPUs for each of the virtual machine. Just as a side note, the numbers that you observe in these circles 1, 2 and 3, all these numbers denotes the sequencing of the question. So this is the first block of the question, the second block and the third block. So you can understand the flow of the question. So just keep that in mind. And then after that we have some yes and no kind of statements. So first statement says that you have to deploy virtual machine to the West US. Now what you need to tell is looking at the virtual machine, looking at its size and the vCPUs, you have to tell whether this virtual machine can be deployed in the West US location or not. So this is basically the idea of the question. Okay, so now let's see the answer to the first statement and side by side I will explain you the reasoning of each answer. So the answer for the first statement is yes. Here you can see that we have to deploy virtual machine 3 to the location West US. Now let's go to the virtual machine 3. We have virtual machine 3. This is the size and we can see the vCPUs for virtual machine 3 is 1. Now let's go to the West US and understand the capacity of the West US location. So we have this West US, we can see the quotas here, and we can see the usage of the West US. So we have 0 to 20. So this is the capacity of the West US location. Now let's check out the virtual machines that are already running in the West US location. So we can see we have already two machines, virtual machine 1 and virtual machine 20, with 2 CPUs for virtual machine 1 and 16 CPUs for the virtual machine 20. Now, how many CPUs are already occupied? You can see 16 plus 2. So we have already occupied 18 CPU. And what's the maximum limit? The maximum limit is 20. And how much we have to deploy now? We have to deploy virtual machine 1 with 1 CPU. So you can see that we have chosen yes as an answer. So as I said, we have to add 1 CPU, which comes from here, this table on the right hand side, top corner. And then we see that 2 CPU, this one, and 16 CPU, this one is already occupied. So 20, the total capacity, minus 18, which is the used capacity, we get 2, which is the capacity that we can still utilize or deploy the virtual machines on. So because our CPU size for the new virtual machine 3 is 1, we can definitely deploy this virtual machine on West US. One very important point that many people make mistakes on, that they do not count the capacity of the stopped virtual machine. This is wrong because stopped virtual machine, even if it's in deallocated state, the vCPU are still used. The second statement says that you can deploy VM4 to West US. The answer for this one is no. And the logic is same, that we cannot deploy because now we have to deploy 4 CPUs. We have already consumed 18 CPUs here, and 18 plus 4 gives us 22, which will outpass the maximum capacity of our location. So that's why this is no. Coming to the third statement, it says you can deploy VM5 to West US. The answer for this one is no as well, because for VM5 we have 16. We have already used up 18. So 18 plus 16 gives us 34, which is way beyond our maximum capacity. And that's why the answer for this statement is no as well. I hope you understood this very interesting question. If you have some questions or doubts around this question, do let me know in the comment section. Now let's check out question number 151. The question says that your company has an Azure Active Directory tenant that is configured for hybrid coexistence with the on-premise Active Directory domain. The on-premise virtual environment consists of virtual machines running on Windows Server 2012 R2 Hyper-V host servers. You create some PowerShell scripts to automate the configuration of newly created VMs. Now you plan to create several new virtual machines. You need a solution that ensures the scripts run on the new virtual machine. Which of the following solution is best? And the correct answer for this question is option A. And in case you are looking for a full understanding on how to add a custom script to Windows setup, then this is the Microsoft documentation. And you can see on top of this page, we have a section called Windows Setup Script. And here we are given with setupcomplete.cmd. That's exactly what we saw in the question as well. And this is the option that we selected as an answer. You can read the entire page. The link is available in the description box. Coming to the question 152, it says that your company has an Azure Active Directory tenant that is configured for hybrid coexistence with on-premises Active Directory domain. You plan to deploy several virtual machines in Azure. The virtual machine will have same operating system and custom software requirement. You configure a reference virtual machine in on-premise virtual environment. You then generalize the virtual machine to create an image. You need to upload the image to Azure to ensure that it is available for the selection when you create new virtual machines. Which PowerShell commandlet should you use? And your options are given here. The correct answer for this question is add AZ-VHD. Quickly coming to question number 153, and that says the deployment team asks you to provision an Azure storage account for their usage. To remain in compliance with IT security policy, you need to ensure that the new Azure storage account meets the following requirement. So these are the requirements. The first one is data must be encrypted at rest. Access key must facilitate automatic rotation. The company must manage access keys. And the options to choose the answer from are listed here. And the correct answer for this question is option A, configure the storage account to store its key in Azure Key Vault. If you want to learn more on automated key rotation in Azure Key Vault, then you can check out this video on your screen to learn more. The link for this video is available in the description box. Moving on, our question number 154 says that you have web app in West US, Central US and East US Azure regions. You have the app plans shown in the following table. You can see in this following table, we have different app service plan and these are the name of the app service plan. Then we have operating system, locations, SKU and different sizes. Then the question says that you plan to create an additional app service plan named ASPs that will use the Linux operating system. You need to identify in which of the currently used location you can deploy ASPs. What should you recommend? Should you recommend Central US only, West US, Central US or East US, basically all the locations, or should you look forward for East US only or West US only? The correct answer for this question is West US, Central US or East US. It's a very straightforward question. If you read the question, you will not find that Microsoft has specified any kind of restriction or condition in this question. And that's why basically you can choose any location to deploy your app service plan. And in case you are interested to learn more to manage app service plan in Azure, then this is the Microsoft documentation that you can refer to. Moving ahead with question number 155, and it says the infrastructure team is responsible for managing a production web app. The app requires scaling to 5 instances, 40 GB of storage and a custom domain name. A least cost solution is desired. Which app service plan would meet the requirements? And your options are basic, standard, premium. Very simple question and the answer for this question is standard. Moving ahead with question number 156 that says that your company website is thetechblackboard.com. Your marketing team wants to know which web pages are most popular at what times of the day and where the users are located. Which of the following should be recommended? And your options are application insights, Azure Monitor or application logging. So you have to tell that out of these 3 Azure services, which service that you can use to track web pages that are most popular, what times they are most popular or what times they are maximum accessed and from where your users are accessing them. So basically the location of the user. And the correct answer for this question is application insights. Now let's check out some questions on Azure Kubernetes. Question number 157 says that can you have different virtual machine in a single cluster? And the answer for the same is yes. You can surely use different Azure virtual machine sizes in your AKS cluster by creating multiple node pools. If you are interested to know how to create and manage multiple node pool for a cluster in Azure Kubernetes service, then this is a very good Microsoft documentation. Moving on with question number 158, it says that can you provide your own name for the AKS node resource group? And the correct answer for this question is yes. And here I would like to mention that this is the default name that AKS will give to the node resource group. So you can see here, this is your resource group, then you have cluster name and then you have location. However, if you wish to give your own name as asked in the question, you can always go ahead and give your own name. Moving on with question number 159, and that says that can you run Windows Server containers on AKS? The correct answer for this question is yes, of course. A quick explanation on this, Windows Server containers are available on AKS. Now to run the Windows Server containers in AKS, you create a node pool that runs on Windows Server as a guest OS. Further ahead, Windows Server's container can use only Windows Server 2019. This is as of now. The things, however, can change very quickly. And in case you want to know how to get started on creating a Windows Server container on Azure Kubernetes Server cluster using Azure CLI, this is the Microsoft documentation for you. And as I was just mentioning, it says that it runs only on Windows Server 2019. Coming to the last question of our part 13, here is question number 160. Question says that suppose you are building a photo editing application that will offer online storage for user generated photo content. You will store the photos in Azure blobs, so you need to create an Azure storage account to contain the blobs. Now, once the storage account is in place, it's unlikely that you would remove or recreate it because this would delete all the user photos. So which tool is likely to offer the quickest and easiest way to create the storage account? Your options are Azure Portal, Azure CLI, or Azure PowerShell. Now it's very interesting to know that actually you can achieve this storage account by using Azure Portal, Azure CLI, and also with Azure PowerShell. So what exactly is the correct answer? The correct answer for this question is Azure Portal. And the reason being that the question says that once this storage account is in place, it's unlikely that you would remove or recreate it. So basically it's a one-time activity, and the best place to do one-time activity is Azure Portal. However, if you're looking for the automation of resource creation, then Azure CLI or PowerShell would be a better choice. I hope you like these very interesting 15 questions in part 13. In case you have doubts or any questions related to AZ-104 or anything related to Azure, do let me know in the comment section and I will be happy to answer. And before you close this video, please do not forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and share this video to as much as you can. Till we meet again, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.
If this video has added any value in your learning, a like and subscribe is highly appreciated. Share this video in your family and friends to spread and expand their learning. Your comments and feedback give me a chance to interact with you, and I look forward for them. We will meet again in our next video. Till then, stay fit, keep learning, and thanks for watching.